For my general warm-up, I'm going to start with 2 minutes on the Stairmaster. I'm just going at like a level 3, level 4, nothing too fast, just to keep me at a moderate pace. This is going to get my heart rate up, activate my leg muscles, and prepare my body for the intense resistance training that we're about to do. It's important to warm up before any resistance training because cold muscles and joints are more prone to injury. So warming up will gradually increase your blood flow to all your muscles, making them a lot more flexible and less susceptible to strains or tears during your workout. It's also going to provide you with the warm-up that can actually enhance your performance during your resistance training that you're performing, as well as increasing your flexibility and improving your range of motion. This can optimize your form during all of your exercises. So it's going to allow you to perform any of your movements with better technique and targeting the right muscle groups more effectively. And not only that, it will also mentally prepare you for your workout. I think Stairmaster is a great cardio machine to do. It is my personal favorite in my opinion. It does get your blood flowing very quickly, and just 5 minutes can get you a really good sweat. I'm now going to be doing some butt kicks. I'm going to be doing 2 rounds of 30 seconds. This is just to keep my blood flowing, keep my heart rate going up, and to improve blood circulation and to get my full body mentally and physically prepared. Butt kicks are going to help you stretch out your quadriceps and hip flexors, which can help improve your flexibility, which is important for maintaining your proper range of motion, especially during resistance training activities. It also involves such a rapid movement of your legs so quickly, so it can elevate your heart rate, which will get you prepared. I'm also going to be doing some lateral shuffles. This is going to help me warm up my muscles and joints in my lower body while also improving agility and coordination. This is also going to primarily target your lateral side-to-side muscles like your abductors, your adductors, your glutes, and your hip stabilizers. So incorporating lateral shuffles into your workout routine can actually be very beneficial, especially if you're in any sports or do any activities where you like to work out. I'm now going to be jogging in place. I'm going to do 2 rounds of 30 seconds or just 1 minute of just jogging in place. This also is beneficial for maintaining and improving your balance and to keep up with quick footwork, especially when you're about to get ready for resistance training exercises. For my first stretch in my specific warm-up, I'm going to be doing an adductor stretch, or also known as a lateral lunge. So I'm just standing upwards and I'm going to have my legs extended in front of me. And as you can see, I'm slowly bending one of my knees and I'm leaning to that one side of the knee that's bent. This is going to target the inner thigh, or also known as your adductor muscles. It's going to improve flexibility and range of motion in your hip and groin area, and it's going to stretch out those adductor longus, brevis, and magnus in your inner thigh. This is really good to reduce any muscle tension and tightness, especially in activities that involve lunging, squatting, or like lateral movements. And for these, I'm just doing 30 seconds on each side, so each leg, 30 seconds where I'm bending my knee and I'm leaning in. For my next stretch, I'm going to do a figure 4 stretch. So this one is supine, just laying on your back, and you're just going to bend both of your knees. You can start off with any leg you'd like first, and you're just going to cross one over the other, and then basically lift up that leg that's at the bottom. And you can hold it with your hands in the back of your thigh, just holding it there for 30 seconds on each side. And this stretch is really gonna stretch out the piriformis, your glute medius and maximus, and even your hip external rotators. This stretch is also going to help with flexibility and range of motion, but definitely specifically in your hip. It can help you reduce any risk of injury, improve your posture, and alleviate any discomfort with like conditions you've had with sciatica or piriformis syndrome. And on this stretch, I'm just doing 30-second holds for each leg. The next stretch I'm doing is very similar. It's just the knee to chest. In this one particular, I'm doing a single knee to chest, so I'm just doing it one leg at a time. And same thing, you're just going to lay down on your back, supine, bend both of your knees, and slowly bring one knee up to your chest. You can even hold on to it in the back of your thigh or below your knee. And then you can keep your opposite leg just flat-footed on the floor. This is going to stretch out your lower back and your glutes, also improve flexibility and relieve any tension that you might have in those muscles. The specific muscles that are being stretched would definitely be your erector spinae group, your gluteus maximus, medius, and your minimus, so the whole gluteal muscles, as well as your iliopsoas and and the muscles within those groups that are being stretched is your erector spinae, all your glute muscles like your maximus, medius, and minimus, your rectus femoris, and even your hamstrings. For my next stretch, I'm going to be doing a bicep stretch. And what you can do at first is face towards the wall and straighten out your arm to where your thumb is going upwards. And you're going to slowly turn your body to the right or the left, depending what side you're stretching out. So now I'm basically turning my body towards the side of the wall, and then my arm is straight out, as if my body was facing the other way. I'm just going to hold each arm for 30 seconds on the wall, and what this stretch is going to stretch out is your biceps brachii, brachialis, brachyradialis, and some chest muscles such as your pectoralis major and minor. Now for my next stretch, it's going to be a tricep stretch. So what you can do is you can bring your hands overhead, and you're going to basically bring one of your hands inwards, kind of like as if you're scratching your back, and then you're going to have the other one hold the elbow of the hand that's on your back. And what you can do is you can pull your elbow in with the hand that you're grabbing onto, and you're going to feel a stretch along your whole tricep. This is going to help with reducing any muscle tension and improving flexibility. This is also going to help enhance muscle recovery and improve your posture. And again, I'm just doing this for 30 seconds on each arm to stretch out the tricep. For my first modality in this video, I'm going to be using the TRX. And for our lower body, I'm going to start with some lunges on the TRX. So in this first clip, I am doing a stationary lunge. I am just holding the handles inward and I'm lowering my body into lunge position, bending both of my knees and making sure my front knee is aligned with my ankle and my back knee is hovering just above the ground. And you're just going to maintain the same position throughout the whole workout. This is going to work your quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, calves, and your core muscles. And this is going to be my beginner variation where I am doing a total of 15 reps. Now for my intermediate version, I'm going to be doing a reverse lunge. So same thing, stay in the same position. The only thing is you're going to be moving in this one. So you're actually stepping backwards into the lunge position, bringing one leg behind you and keeping the other one stationary. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult just because it requires a lot more balance and stability, especially when you're stepping backwards and then returning back into your starting position. And these are going to work out the same exact muscles as I previously mentioned. It's just probably going to have a slightly more impact on your glutes and your hamstrings since you're doing that backward stepping motion. Now for my advanced version, I'm going to be doing a curtsy lunge. You're going to see that it does look very similar, but in this little video, I just wanted to show you exactly how it's actually looking like. So instead of stepping behind you, you're actually going to step diagonally in this one. So you're going to cross one leg behind the other in a motion that's similar to a curtsy. For this specific exercise, it does require a lot of balance just because not only are you going behind, but you're going behind into that curtsy. So you want to make sure that you're not looking too wonky with it. You want to make sure you're going into the same placement as you were before and performing that curtsy as coordinated as possible. As we get into my upper body portion, I am going to be doing rows with the TRX. So for this beginner version, I'm going to be doing mid rows. Now with these mid rows, I am using an overhand grip on the TRX handles and my feet are shoulder width apart and then my palms are facing inwards. What I'm doing is I'm just standing up tall kind of with my back leaned slightly back and I'm keeping my body in a straight line as much as I can, and I'm just going to start with my arms extended out in front of me with a slight bend in my elbows, and I'm going to pull my chest towards the handles by retracting my shoulder blades and bringing my hands towards my rib cage. You want to try to keep your elbows as close to your sides as much as possible. That way you can squeeze your shoulder blades together when you're at the top of the movement. Now, in this next variation, this is going to be an intermediate variation. I'm actually doing wide rows for this, so it's going to be very similar with the overhand grip, except my palms are facing down and my hands are positioned wider than my shoulders. And majority of the muscles that are worked during rows are going to be your latissimus dorsi, your rhomboids, your trapezius, even your posterior deltoids, and your biceps brachii. These are going to be slightly more advanced just due to the limited range of motion they have. Now for my advanced version, I am going to do a mid row with my knees bent. So I'm just going to bring my body more forward, and I'm going to lean back to where the resistance feels good enough to where I can hold the TRX and bring myself upwards. It's going to be the same concept. The only thing is you're going to be engaging your core a lot more in this exercise right here. It does require you to use more of your body weight, so it is going to be a lot more harder than the last two that we did in the previous videos. This is going to work out all the same muscles I previously mentioned. The only one big difference is you're going to be using your core muscles in this one as well. And I am doing about 10 reps on each variation in this modality. For this next one, I am going to be using a kettlebell, and for my lower body exercises, I'm going to start off with a beginner version of a goblet squat with a kettlebell. For these goblet squats, you want to make sure you stand with your feet slightly shoulder width apart and your toes pointed out slightly outward. You're going to hold the kettlebell with both of your hands close to your body, and you're going to grip the sides of the handles as well. Just make sure to engage your core, maintain stability throughout the way down. Make sure to lower your body into a squat position by bending your knees and pushing your hips back, but definitely try to keep your chest up and your back straight up as well. For these goblet squats, you are going to be working out your quadriceps, your glutes, hamstrings, adductors, your calves, and your core. For my intermediate version of this exercise, I'm going to be placing a plate on the ground and put my heels just on top of it. This is going to allow this exercise to make me feel it way more in my quadriceps, and this is going to allow for greater range of motion compared to the first variation. Elevating your heels on a plate can definitely challenge your balance and stability to a greater extent. It also requires a lot of ankle stability and control. That way you can do proper form throughout the whole motion. For my advanced variation, I'm going to be doing a goblet squat with a reverse lunge. This is going to be very similar. The only thing is when you squat down, you're actually going to follow it by stepping back into a lunge. So this is going to target the same muscles, but it's also going to engage your hip flexors, quadriceps, and your glutes to a greater extent since you're performing the lunge portion. This one's going to be a lot more difficult since you want to definitely keep that stability and coordination around the whole way through in all your reps. I also did about 12 reps for each of these variations. For my upper body workout with a kettlebell modality, I'm going to be doing overhead tricep extensions. So you're just going to make sure you hold the kettlebell with both of your hands, and you're going to lift the weight overhead until your arms are fully extended. Make sure to keep your elbows close to your ears and your palms facing upward. And then when you bend your elbows to lower the weight behind your head, you're going to allow your forearms to move backward while keeping your arms up stationary and close to your head. This is going to work your triceps brachii, your deltoids, and your core muscles. And for my next variation, which is an intermediate variation, I'm going to do the same exercise, so an overhead tricep extension with a hold. So whenever I extend my arms upward, I'm going to hold for about 3 to 5 seconds at the top, and then I will come downwards. This is going to increase the time that your tricep is under tension due to the static hold at the top, which can lead to greater muscle fatigue and endurance. And for these variations, I'm going to be doing about 10 to 12 reps. And now for my advanced variation, I'm going to be doing an overhead tricep extension with a pulse at the bottom. So as you can see, as I'm lowering the weight and I come to the bottom, I'm going to pulse for about 2 times and then slowly make my way up. This is going to tire out my triceps way more than the holds. This is because the pulses create a continuous muscle contraction throughout the whole movement. It's also going to add an additional challenge and increase intensity for this exercise. For my next modality, I'm going to be using weight plates. So for my first lower body exercise, I'm going to be doing calf raises. So I'm just sitting on a bench where my legs are 90 degrees, and I'm going to lift both of my heels off the ground by pressing through the balls of my feet and raising them as high as possible. You want to make sure you hold that raise position briefly and focus on squeezing your calf muscles at the top of your movement. That way, when you lower your heels back down, you're going to allow your calves to stretch. This is going to work out your gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, and tibialis anterior. Adding a weight plate to calf raises increases the resistance in this exercise and allows for increasing your challenge and promoting muscle growth and strength into the calf muscles. Now, for my intermediate version, we're going to be doing something very similar to the first one. The only thing is, on the lowering phase or the eccentric phase, we're going to be lowering our heels back to the ground under control. So we're going to be lowering down slower than it usually is. This is going to provide a greater emphasis on muscle lengthening and can lead to greater muscle damage and growth, as well as the contractions that you're doing during the eccentric phase is going to know how to produce more muscle tension. This will lead to greater muscle activation and recruitment due to the increased time under tension during the eccentric phase. I am doing about 15 reps for each variation in this video for the calf raises. As for my advanced version, I'm going to be doing single leg seated calf raises. So in this variation, you're going to train each calf individually, and you're going to lift off the one heel from the ground at a time, focusing both on the concentric and eccentric phase. Doing this unilateral movement helps improve ankle stability and proprioception. It's also going to help to develop any functional strength and instability for any activities that require a single leg balance, such as running and jumping. For my upper body portion of this modality, I'm going to be doing planks. So for my beginner version, I'm going to be doing a plank with my knees bent, and the plate is going to be right on my back. I'm going to be having my elbows bent for this, and also I'm going to engage my core muscles as my knees are bent and hold this for about 30 seconds for 2 rounds. This is going to work out my abdominis muscles, so it's going to be your rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, your obliques, your hip flexors, erector spinae group, and your shoulders and your arms. Having this plate on your back can increase intensity in this exercise and also engage your stabilizing muscles, but also overload your core muscles as you become stronger. For my intermediate version, I'm going to be doing it with my knees extended now, so my legs are straight and my elbows are still going to be on the mat. But this time it is going to make it a little bit more difficult to stabilize my core since I am using all my body weight and trying to stay still just for about 2 rounds for 30 seconds. Since my knees were bent in the first variation, it made it a lot more easier to maintain that straight line from my head through my hips, and that makes it easier to lift up off the ground, especially with the weight. For my advanced variation, it's going to be very similar to this one, except we're going to be throwing some taps into it. So instead of being on our elbows, we're going to be on our hands, only because we are going to be alternating tapping our shoulders back to back while trying to keep that stabilization in our core and keep our body aligned from head to toe. Compared to the last variation, this is going to add a cardiovascular element to this exercise, which is going to increase your heart rate, requiring to hold that static plank. These also enhance neuromuscular coordination and proprioception. That way it can overall improve movement quality and athleticism. For my next modality, I'm going to be using dumbbells, and for my lower body portion, I'm going to be doing hip thrust. So in this first beginner variation, I'm going to be doing just a regular hip thrust. I have a bench that I'm using where I'm just laying my shoulder blades on top of it, and I'm putting the dumbbell on my hips and driving my butt to go upwards while still bracing my core. I want to make sure that my body is aligned all together and my chin is as tucked as I can. And I do have my legs bent at a 90-degree angle. This variation, I am going all the way down and then driving my hips all the way upwards. And the muscles worked from this exercise is going to be your glute maximus, your hamstrings, adductor muscles, erectus spinae, and also your rectus abdominis and obliques and your quadriceps. In this next variation that is playing, it's going to be my intermediate version where it's going to be doing a calf hip thrust. And in this variation, you are actually not going all the way down into the full range of motion. You're going to be going about halfway. This is going to target mainly more your glutes, and you're not allowing the body to be involved in the same way as before. Now for my advanced version, I'm going to be doing a single leg hip thrust. So the setup is going to be exactly the same. The only thing is I am going to lift up one leg and leave the other one planted on the ground. This one is going to be a lot more similar to the first one. It really depends if you want to do the second variation tied into this one, but I am doing the first one, so I'm doing full range of motion, but with a single leg hip thrust. This is going to target especially the glute maximus and the hamstrings of the working leg, and it also is going to engage my core muscles, which is particularly for stabilizing my muscles of the trunk and pelvis, which is going to help me maintain. For my upper body workout, I'm going to do a lateral raise. I'm going to stand tall with my knees slightly bent, feet shoulder width apart. And I'm going to hold a dumbbell in each of my hands with my palms facing my thighs and my arms fully extended. As you lift up the dumbbells to your sides, you want to make sure they're parallel to each other, and you want to maintain a controlled motion and avoid any swinging to your body to generate momentum. Muscles that are being worked on in this exercise are your lateral deltoids, your supraspinatus, and your upper trapezius. For my intermediate version of a lateral raise, I'm doing a lateral raise with a hold. So you're going to be in the same stance. The only thing is when you bring the actual dumbbell up at the top, you're going to hold it. I'm holding mine for about 3 seconds and then I'm bringing it back down. Holding at the top will increase your time under tension, and then it allows you to focus on squeezing and contracting those lateral deltoids. That way it can improve that mind-muscle connection and ensure proper muscle engagement. I'm also doing about 15 to 20 reps into these variations. For my advanced version, I'm going to do a lateral raise with an iso hold. So it's the same thing, feet shoulder width apart, but when you actually raise it up the first time, you're going to hold one out the whole entire time of your set. So you can see I'm holding one out, I'm making sure it doesn't move, and I'm doing a regular lateral raise on the other side. This is going to give an isometric hold to the one that you're holding upwards, and you're holding this position statically, so this is going to maintain the contraction in your lateral deltoids for a specific time, and this contraction can actually create and challenge your muscles to stabilize and also maintain tension throughout the whole entire hold. Now for this modality, I'm going to be using medicine balls, and for my lower body workout, I'm going to be doing medicine ball squats. So in this beginner version, I'm just going to have my feet shoulder width apart, and I'm just holding the medicine ball straight out in front of me, close to me, and I'm going to bend my knees and squat as low as I can, and then just right back up. This exercise is going to help strengthen your lower body muscles, which the medicine ball squats target, which is your quadriceps, your gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and also your adductor magnus. For my intermediate version, I am doing a medicine ball squat with a pause at the bottom. So I am doing about a 3-second pause, and then I'm slowly coming back up and then repeating it again. Pausing at the bottom is going to increase time under tension for the muscles, so this is going to lead to an increase in muscle activation and recruitment, and also can result in improved muscle development like strength gains and hypertrophy in your lower body muscles targeted by the squat exercise. And for each variation I'm going to be doing about 12 reps. For my advanced version, I'm going to be doing a overhead medicine ball squat. The setup for this variation is going to be the same like the other two, so you're going to have your feet shoulder width apart with your toes pointed slightly outward. The only thing is you're going to be holding the medicine ball over your head. And this is with your arms fully extended. Make sure to maintain a stable grip on the medicine ball to avoid any arching in your back excessively, and keep your elbows extended and your shoulders engaged to support the weight of the medicine ball as you go up and down in the squat. This is going to work out the same muscles as before, but actually holding the medicine ball overhead is going to For my upper body workout with medicine balls, I'm going to be doing Russian twist. This beginner-friendly variation is going to just have your knees bent, and with the medicine ball, you're just rotating side to side, tapping the ball on the ground, but also making sure you stabilize your core and maintain that same posture throughout the whole way through. I'm doing about 1 minute of this. I did 2 rounds of 30 seconds. So your upper body muscles that this is going to target is your obliques, your rectus abdominis, and transverse abdominis, and especially your shoulder stabilizers, because they involve a degree of stabilization from other muscle groups. This makes them a compound exercise, which provides a comprehensive workout for almost the whole midsection, especially for core strength, stability, and endurance. For this intermediate version, you're working the same muscle groups as before. The only difference is you are actually picking up your legs now and you're rotating. So this is going to cause you to kind of get off balance, but this is a challenge here to make you stabilize your core muscles a lot more. And this is going to be a much more challenging variation compared to the first one. For my advanced variation, I'm doing a Russian twist with a cycle. So if you have ever seen the cycling exercise where you're kind of like zigzagging, scissoring your legs, it's going to be the same thing, kind of like as if you're riding a bike. This is going to make it a little bit more difficult since you're alternating legs and you're causing yourself to go off balance. But this is what's going to make it more challenging. You want to maintain that same posture throughout the whole movement within every round. And here I'm just doing about a full minute of this. I did separate them into 2 rounds of 30 seconds. Shoulder muscles like your deltoids and your upper back muscles. For my last modality, I'm going to use barbells. So for my first lower body exercise for beginners, I'm going to be doing deadlifts, specifically sumo deadlifts. For this exercise, your feet are actually going to be a lot more wider than shoulder width apart. Make sure that your shins are close to the bar and your feet are positioned wider than your hands. You want to make sure your arms are straight and your chest is up as you bend at your hips and your knees to lower your torso, as well as keeping a neutral spine the whole time. As you lift up the bar, you're going to drive through your heels and push your hips forward to lift up the barbell off the ground. As you lower the barbell, make sure you hinge at your hips and slowly lower the weight under control. For my intermediate variation, I'm going to be doing a conventional deadlift. This time your feet are going to be shoulder width apart. This narrow stance involves a longer range of motion, so it requires the lifter to lift the barbell at a greater distance off the ground, which can increase the demands on mobility, particularly in the hips and the ankles. This is going to work your lower back muscles, your hamstrings, quadriceps, trapezius, and rhomboids, your lats, and your forearms. I'm going to be doing about 10 reps separated into 2 rounds for each variation. For my advanced version of this deadlift, I'm going to be doing a deficit conventional deadlift. I'm going to be placing a weight, but you can use any type of platform, just about where we were under for the regular conventional deadlift. This is going to elevate the surface and create a deeper starting position. This is going to make it a little bit more difficult since you're lifting the barbell from a lower starting position due to the elevation. This is going to increase the range of motion of the lift, which is going to require the lifter to pull the barbell at a greater distance. This is a very challenging deadlift due to the fact that the lifter should have a high level of mobility and strength, particularly in the hips and ankles, to maintain proper form throughout the lift. For my upper body workout in this modality, I'm going to be doing a bicep curl with a barbell. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold it palms facing up, flex your elbows to lift up the weight towards your shoulders while keeping your arms stationary. This movement engages your biceps, your brachialis, and brachioradialis. It's essential to maintain proper form throughout the whole workout to avoid strain. And all of these muscles work together to execute the lifting motion during a bicep curl. I'm also doing about 12 to 15 reps in each of these variations. For my intermediate version, I'm going to add a pause in the midpoint of the movement. So during a bicep curl with a pause, you're going to lift the weight as usual and then intentionally pause for a second or two when your forearm is perpendicular to the ground before lowering the weight back down. The pause increases time under tension, making the exercise more challenging, and this is going to help you improve muscle control and strengthen your biceps. Holding this pause requires great control and stability, so this can help you improve your mind and muscle connection and overall muscle control. For my advanced version of a bicep curl with the barbell, I am attempting to do a concentration curl with the barbell. I believe there's different ways to do this exercise, but for my particular variation, I chose to go with my knees bent and a neutral spine. I am attempting to put both of my elbows to try to touch or be aligned with my knees, and I'm going to slowly do the curl up from that angle and from that stance. This is going to work all the previous muscles I mentioned, but not only that, it's going to engage the muscles of the core and stabilize those muscles to maintain proper posture throughout the exercise. For my cool down workout, I am starting off with some handheld rocks. For these, you're just getting on all fours, and what you're going to do is sit back onto your heels and whenever you lean in, you're going to lean your upper body backwards. So you're going to shift all your weight onto your hands, into the floor, allowing your heels to lift off the ground a little bit. And you're going to rock your body weight back and forth. You definitely want to maintain a control and smooth motion as you rock back and forth. This is going to help improve dorsiflexion and your ability to pull the top of the foot toward your shin, which is important for various activities like we performed in squatting, running, jumping. I did this for about a minute, just going back and forth. For my next one, I'm going to be doing a pigeon stretch. This is going to help target your hips and lower back, especially your piriformis muscle. You're going to slide one knee towards the front of you, positioning the other one slightly behind with your legs straight. You want to make sure you lower your hips toward the floor, that way you can feel a stretch in the hip of your front leg. And what I did is I held for 30 seconds on each side. This is going to help increase that hip flexibility and mobility. And it's going to help alleviate tension in the hips and lower back, improving your overall posture and your range of motion. Now for this one, it is a lat stretch. This is going to contain a side bend, and the arm with the side bend, you're going to pull your other arm with the opposite hand, and you're just going to slightly bend and lean into it. That way you can get a good stretch in your latissimus dorsi. I'm going to be holding this for a full 30 seconds on each side. Now I'm just going to be doing a seated hamstring curl. I'm going to straighten out one leg and bring the other one just crossed over. I'm going to use my hand to slightly bring my foot and heel forward. That way I can feel a good stretch in my hamstring. The next exercise I'm going to be doing is hip internal rocking. So I'm going to bend both of my knees and wave them left to right in a controlled and slow, steady pace. This is going to be exactly like how the windshield wipers are on a car. So you're just going to the left and to the right. You want to make sure you want to try to open that hip in every single time that you go to the side. My next one is a cobra stretch. So you're just going to be laying down in prone, and you're going to pick up your whole upper body and use your hands on the floor to kind of look like also a seal. So how a seal looks, you want to look exactly like that. Or like how it says in the name, like a cobra. You want to be facing upwards with your chest up. And I'm just holding that for 30 seconds. I'm just doing 2 rounds of that. My next one is called a warrior stretch. So on this one, you are kind of coming out like a lunge, but you're not lunging entirely, and you're bringing your arms upwards, holding it there for about 30 seconds 2 times. This is going to strengthen your legs and your glutes as well as your hip flexors, and I'm just holding it on each leg, each side for 30 seconds 2 times. For my last one, I am doing thread the needle, and for this one you are going to have to get on all fours, and whichever side you'd like to start off with, you just kind of want to bring it inside in between where your legs and your arm is, kind of like as if you're threading a needle through the hole, and you're just going to kind of slide it or glide it to the other side. And once you come out, you want to make sure you open your chest and bring your arm out, and you're going to go exactly right back in.